Hello, welcome to FSE London 2017. My name is Andrew Montlake from Coreco, and I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Dryden, who is the Business Development Director of 360.net. Thank you for coming today. First of all, do you want to tell me a little bit about 360.net and what you do?
Up to, really.
Yeah, what you're up to.
Absolutely. So 360.net, we are a software house based in Leicester, and what we do is we create financial solutions for the intermediary market. And just to unpick that, because it sounds a tiny bit kind of weird, what we do is we've got our own back-end CRM practice management system, and we've also then got our fact find, fully integrated mortgage and protection sourcing, also GI into that as well. Where we kind of really come in, what our kind of USPs are, is really about linking all these kind of things together. So rather than having a separate system where you're kind of taking your leads and then you're having to then enter stuff into a fact find separately and then onto a sourcing platform and then et cetera down the kind of processes, we've kind of joined all these things together, recognizing where our kind of strengths are and where the strengths of other people are. And so to kind of give you an example into that, we've got a platform of basically kind of client engagement. So where can we actually reduce down the actual time for advisors into there? So a client fact find is a really kind of great example where I'm the broker, I can send you a client fact find. And out of that you can then enter all your information onto there and then send it back to me. But during that step, there's been no rekeying of information, no duplication of information. It's just flowing backwards and forwards.
So speeding up the whole process, essentially.
Absolutely.
How many brokers do you look after?
So it's about 5,500 brokers. So we're a bit of an unsung story, really. This is the first time we've really kind of pushed ourselves out there. But it's we're dealing with brokers over 5 networks, and we've also got approximately about 1,000 advisors actually in the DA space, and that's a really great story for us actually, because we feel it's a very underserviced particular segment. They don't necessarily have the voice when it comes to technology. And
so how do you think technology generally is improving the way that the brokers work and the industry works as a whole?
I think there's kind of 3 areas that kind of come into it. I've mentioned one which is about kind of client engagement. That's a kind of real interesting area. The other one is again joining up all those dots and just removing all the inefficiencies in the system. And then the next thing is what's kind of coming down the line to basically help people out. So client engagement, we spoke about a client fact find. We don't just simply create these things. In 2017, this year, right, we've sent out approximately 25,000 client fact finds. But here's the thing:
that's a number.
78% have actually then been returned back, right? So it shows that clients actually want to be part of that process. And there's all those kind of great things that you also get out of it, which is you're engendering commitment with the clients. You can pass a lot of that data entry onto them, and you're saving yourself anything from half an hour to an hour and a half of that initial data collection. Jumping into joining up all the dots, again, it's about reducing down the process, but not trying to replace the process. It's very different, that is. So we're talking, we're not trying to take the robo approach here. What we're trying to do is we're recognizing the process that a mortgage advisor has to do, and then jumping into the kind of integration, some really great stuff that's happening in terms of open banking. You might be aware of PSD2.
Absolutely.
And then also into that, what kind of direct lender submission, all this. So does that kind of answer the question?
No, absolutely. Very well. Very, very thorough. So how quickly do you think the process can become? How short a process do you think that?
So we've been kind of playing around with the figures. So we obviously take a lot of metrics in terms of how people are actually using the system. And we think at the moment and looking ahead, we should be able to knock the total advice process down to about 30 minutes and 20 minutes for the actual remortgage. And to just give you an example, your lead comes in, that can come off your website into the CRM. You can then send out the client fact find, bring it back, start at the main fact find. You can then push that data into the sourcing system. Once you've sourced, then you can generate the suitability letter. It's all, it's adding all the information in. And while that's happening, it's auditing the process for you all the way along. But the thing is everything I've mentioned to you there, you're not rekeying information. And that's a kind of real difference.
Which is a bane of every broker's life.
But that's a real benefit. If you then say put open banking at the kind of client fact find, imagine where someone can permissively allow you, as in the advisor, to actually link up into their current account and take all that data straight into the actual budgeter, the online kind of budget and fact find, etc. And then also then put some really interesting stuff on it, such as, let's validate the salary. Let's actually look at where the kind of discretionary spending is and all this kind of stuff. And then obviously direct submissions, kind of last bit right at the end, where it's just simply fire and forget, off it goes.
So that's great. So that really is just using the technology to do all the heavy lifting, and actually without losing the advice process, which is what a lot of brokers are worried about with when they hear terms like RoboAdvice and artificial intelligence, etc. How far do you think that will go, or is it just actually it's going to be a combination of the two that will win out?
So if you just take it from an intermediary or kind of broker's point of view, I don't think there's too much to worry in there. But it's worth me really kind of qualifying that statement, right? So let's just take what RoboAdvice is. RoboAdvice is either providing you with a simplified product set, as in what they can do is they can obviously build the kind of decision trees into that, or what they're doing is they're using AI to then actually kind of generate something. And you have two primary problems actually with AI. So firstly, what you've got to do is you've got to have a lot of data. You've got to have a lot of data in order to do this. Otherwise, all your edge cases, and to be honest, how many intermediaries deal with kind of edge cases, right? How are they going to actually get service? You're not going to have something in place. There's a reason why Habito and Trussell and Dwell at the moment, those guys are actually having someone looking at the actual applications as it's kind of going through. Yeah. It isn't actually a kind of straight-through process at the moment. Now, so let's just handle just the RoboAdvice. So what I kind of personally see, as just a personal opinion, is I see it's very much kind of an acquisition channel. You know, so what this is doing, this isn't necessarily taking business away from intermediaries as they are at the moment. What it is they're just competing in a new space. So you've got these new players coming into the market, and you know they are having to get a lot of money. Recently, Habito with 18.5 million.
Yeah, that's right.
How much of that is going to go on marketing? Because they've got to build a brand, they've got to build the trust into the brand, right?
Just released their TV campaign, haven't they?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it looks brilliant. You know, I think everyone should be watching this with a lot of interest, to be absolutely frank. But then into that, it says, well, okay, well, that's those guys, but how can AI? Because that's the actual mechanism behind it, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, this is what we've actually done. We've actually had a look into RoboAdvice, realised that actually, in terms of the actual data that you kind of got coming through, because that's the other part of AI that you have an issue with, is that it's doing some what's known as predictive modelling. Yep. So what you're doing, you're working off historic data. If you're working off historic data, how many new products are coming from the lenders that are here today?
Yeah.
You know, and that's coming in, you know, new criteria again and again and again. So we can't always have that up to date. So what we decided to do is then look at the areas where we can then use AI to actually not replace the advisor, but to actually augment the task that they do. And this is where AI can take routine but complex tasks and then just simply harvest that away, so the advisor's doing what they're best at, servicing the client, giving financial advice.
Excellent. So if you had, lastly, just one message to give to brokers about the challenges or opportunities that are coming their way.
Challenges and opportunities that are coming their way. That's a really, really good question, actually. There's a number of different things that are coming, you know, in the kind of short term for brokers. Intermediaries, should I say. Probably the first one is I'll be really interested to see what open banking does.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I say that is if we just kind of jump ahead slightly, imagine that, again, the client permissive gives you access into their current account, you get that data, right? What happens if we can then lock that data in? What happens if that data can then go directly over to the actual lender itself? That sounds like what a packager would do. Imagine if you can then have the checks that a packager does with all that initial data. Yeah. I wonder if that will then translate down into the actual advisor's prop fees or anything like that. So that'll be something to have a look at. Probably the open banking as it stands at the moment is probably going to be more kind of end of 2018. But that's a genuinely interesting place. Yeah. Second thing is GDPR. You know, I think people are going to get stung on this one. And it's not about just doing the general things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Don't have to worry about that. It's about the legitimate consent, or the consent that you need to do with some of the things like marketing, like if you are going to do profiling, like if you're going to pass that list on to somebody else. Imagine you've got an advisor today and they can carry on talking with their clients, happy days, until that client no longer has a product and or they haven't got consent. What about that big list of MPWs, right, that they probably throw the young brokers on when they come in, right? Yeah? You know what I mean? Well, that's what they're going to need consent for, right? You know, and whereas the old Data Protection Act was very much about don't be evil, now it's actually about think about the rights of the individual. And I think the last thing into there is really about, you know, intermediaries. We always have this very interesting conversation with them. We provide this big kind of technology suite, and people kind of take it as a kind of smorgasbord. But ultimately, if you're not utilising all of the technology that's actually out there, then you are compromising the efficiencies that you can take. And you know, if I was to say anything to anybody, I would say look at your technology solution, challenge your provider, and make sure it's actually working for you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mark. It's really interesting. Thank you for watching, and it seems to me like there's a lot more opportunities than there are threats in our industry, so embrace technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you.